Welcome back to our channel. Ever think a simple quarter could change your life? The 1994 Washington quarter has a hidden minting error so rare, collectors are shelling out thousands. Then came the 2006 issue. What looked ordinary turned out to be an off-center strike that stunned even seasoned experts. But the real shocker? A 2020 quarter featuring a fruit bat with a doubling error that sent its value soaring past $17,000. These aren't just coins, they're secret treasures hiding in your change. Smash that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable coin stories that could be sitting right in your pocket. Let's start with 1994. In 1994, amidst the hum of the Denver and Philadelphia mints, millions of Washington quarters rolled off the presses. Ordinary coins meant for everyday commerce dropped into pockets, soda machines, and change purses across the country. These quarters bore the familiar face of George Washington on the obverse, the iconic eagle on the reverse, and the clean, metallic ring of clad copper nickel that had long replaced silver. It was a year like any other, with little to suggest that something curious would quietly emerge from the noise of normalcy. But minting is a complex dance of pressure, speed, and precision. Any misstep, however slight, can create a deviation barely noticeable at first, but monumental in the right hands. And in 1994, one such deviation did occur. Unseen, unannounced, and undiscovered at the time, it escaped scrutiny. A few coins known more than a handful, it's believed left the presses carrying something unintended. Not broken, not glaring, but subtly, mysteriously wrong. Decades would pass before anyone truly took notice. It was during the late summer of 2011 when Thomas Beck, a seasoned yet modest coin collector from Idaho, found himself browsing through a forgotten shoebox of loose change he'd inherited from his grandfather. There wasn't much expectation, just a curious afternoon digging through nickels and pennies tarnished by time. But then he paused. A quarter, seemingly like any other, gleamed differently in the sunlight slipping through the blinds. At first glance, the quarter bore the 1994 date and the familiar Philadelphia P mint mark. It wasn't particularly rare, not in terms of mintage numbers. Over 825 million were struck that year at Philadelphia alone. Still, something gnawed at Thomas's instincts. The coin felt slightly off in weight, nothing dramatic, just a whisper of lightness. He weighed it. It read 5.3 grams. Too low. A standard clad quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. He frowned. He flipped it under a magnifying lamp and studied the details. The ridged edge was smoother than usual, worn, yes, but not quite like the others. And then he noticed something striking. The edge had a bronze tone, not the expected sandwiched copper nickel glint. He tilted the coin again. The color was wrong. A low hum of adrenaline surged in his chest. Unsure of what he had, Thomas contacted a regional coin dealer, who offered a cursory glance and suggested it might be a foreign planchet error, rare, but not unprecedented. But something in the dealer's eyes lingered longer than expected. When Thomas declined to sell, the man's jaw twitched just slightly. That was all he needed to trust his gut. This coin deserved deeper scrutiny. He sent it for authentication. The weeks crawled by until the letter arrived, official, crisp, sealed by the professional coin grading service. The results were not just unexpected, they were seismic. His 1994 quarter had indeed been struck on a foreign bronze planchet, likely one intended for a coin outside the U.S. minting schedule. It weighed 5.3 grams. Consistent with certain Central or South American bronze coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint under contract. The copper-colored core and edge confirmed it had missed the nickel cladding process entirely. This was not just an off-metal strike, it was a rare, unintentional fusion of American design and foreign material. The collector community reacted slowly at first. Thomas shared images on niche forums. Some praised his find, others questioned its authenticity, even accusing him of plating it. But as certification and metallurgical analysis began circulating, the tide shifted. Other collectors combed their own stashes for 1994 quarters with similar features. but few emerged. A second example surfaced in Ohio, also from Philadelphia, and also struck on a bronze planchet. A third came years later, confirmed by NGC. That was all. Just what was once an anonymous quarter now held the numismatic world's attention. Its value began as a whisper, maybe a few $100s for the novelty. But once the market realized the coin's true scarcity, prices jumped. In 2013, an early private sale clocked in at $1,100. 2 years later, one of the confirmed specimens traded hands for $3,750 at a private auction, still under the radar of mainstream headlines. By 2017, the coin made an appearance at the Long Beach Expo, drawing quiet but serious interest. Bidding crept past $7,000. Rumors swirled that a fourth unconfirmed specimen had shown up in Canada, but it vanished from discussion, its owner reportedly unwilling to let it go. The value wasn't just monetary. It was symbolic, a ghost in the machine, a mistake born from routine, caught only by the obsessive eye of patience. What made this error more compelling was its indivisibility. Unlike dramatic double strikes or wildly off-center misalignments, the bronze planchet quarter could easily pass through a vending machine, lost forever in a transaction. It was invisible unless someone looked closely, really closely. Its subtlety became its power. Collectors became detectives. 1994 quarters were weighed, measured, tested under light, and cross-referenced against magnetic properties. Bronze planchets, after all, do not react to magnets like clad coins. Coin shops began posting signs asking to check any 1994 quarters brought in. Metal detectors enthusiasts shared tales of finding odd-sounding quarters in their hauls. Still, no new examples were verified. And then, in 2021, something strange occurred. A man in Georgia sold a bulk lot of coins online, nearly 15 pounds of mixed change under a vague listing. One bidder, a young numismatist named Alyssa Tran, bought it on impulse. Sorting through the coins, she uncovered something shocking: a 1994 quarter with a full copper appearance and unusual strike softness on the eagle's feathers. Her hands trembled as she slid it onto a scale. 5.27 grams. She blinked. Twice. Further inspection showed slight doubling on the lettering, not unusual, possibly mechanical, but enough to hint at unusual strike pressure. More curious was the texture, slightly porous, almost granular, like metal that wasn't fully hardened. She didn't know it yet, but she'd found something even rarer than the bronze planchet error. When her coin was examined, the results left the community stunned. It wasn't struck on a foreign bronze planchet, it was struck on a U.S. set planchet. Somehow, a copper zinc blank used for Lincoln cents had found its way into the quarter press. At 3.11 grams, it was the lightest verified quarter error from 1994, and the only known quarter from that year to be struck on a cent blank. The implications were enormous. That kind of error should have been impossible with modern minting protocols in place. Yet it had happened. What's more, the coin wasn't just rare, it was beautiful. Despite the incorrect planchet, the strike was strong, with full design details and a crisp, rimmed edge. It was authenticated, slabbed, and given a grade of -58 Australian dollars by PCGS. News rippled across forums and newsletters. When it went to auction in early 2022, bidding opened modestly. But within 10 minutes, it jumped past $9,000. An international buyer raised the stakes. When the hammer fell, the final price landed at $18,750, a record not just for a 1994 quarter, but for any quarter of the 1990s with an off-metal strike. But the twist didn't end there. Following that sale, an investigative journalist from a numismatic publication traced records of minting contracts in 1994. In digging through obscure mint correspondence, she found an odd entry. During a production run in late February, a Philadelphia press was halted briefly due to a planchet misallocation. The record stated that some foreign bronze blanks had been mistakenly routed to quarter hoppers, and that the incident was contained and corrected within hours. Yet no recall had been issued. This discovery confirmed what collectors had long suspected. The Bronze Era coins, and perhaps even the said planchet strike, were born from a single-day malfunction, never publicized, quickly buried in routine. A quiet hiccup in the Mint's massive machine that released a handful of anomalies into the wild. From that point on, the 1994 bronze planchet and said planchet quarters weren't just rare, they were legend. Mentioned in collector circles with reverence, hunted at estate sales, and referenced in new numismatic guides under sections titled Phantom Errors of the 90s. In 2023, one of the 3 known bronze planchet specimens fetched $26,000 in a tightly contested private sale between 2 East Coast collectors. The coin never even made it to public auction, and perhaps most intriguing of all, rumors persist of a 6th coin, reportedly in the hands of an elderly collector in Mexico City, who claims to have received it in change during a visit to the U.S. in 1995 and has kept it as a keepsake ever since. Attempts to locate and verify the coin have so far been unsuccessful. But stories like this only add to the mystique. The 1994 Washington quarter, once lost in the crowd, has become a symbol of hidden rarity. How a simple glance, a moment of curiosity, or a whisper of instinct can transform a 25-cent coin into an artifact worth thousands. Not because of its beauty, or its age, or even its design, but because of a flaw. A flaw no one saw coming. A flaw that changed everything. In 2006, the quiet precision of the U.S. Mint was rolling forward at full steam. Under the popular 50-state quarters program, the Mint released 5 distinct designs that year: Nevada, Nebraska, Colorado, North Dakota, and South Dakota struck at Philadelphia, P, and Denver, D, with proofs from San Francisco, S. Over 1 billion coins entered circulation, each destined to pass through countless hands without fanfare. The production line hummed in word. Strips of metal were blanked, annealed, and smoothed before each planchet was placed into a collar for striking. A moment's misfeed or stray debris could produce something extraordinary: a blemish, a cud, an off-center strike. Year after year, Mint errors remained rare but alluring, tiny miracles born of mechanical chaos. en.wikipedia.org 2. Among the thousands of rolls of 2006 state quarters produced that spring, one batch rolled through a Philadelphia press destined to reveal an irregular story decades later. There was no press release, no red flag, just a whisper of an unusual occurrence. A stray die crack, a piece of grease lodged in the collar, a die slightly misaligned. Subtle errors, but enough to seed a handful of odd coins into circulation. Years passed. The average person never noticed. To most, a 2006 quarter was just 25 cents. But to a few with persistent curiosity, a glint beneath the surface signals a tale waiting to be told. In late 2012, a Midwestern shop owner named Greg flipped through freshly rolled Colorado quarters, clean, bright, new. One coin felt heavier than the rest. Under a loop, he saw a rounded bump near the rim on the reverse, an odd blob of metal, smooth, shapeless, blocking part of the mountain range. He weighed it, a normal quarter, but with an unmistakable cut error. The raised blob was a telltale sign. Part of the die had chipped, leaving a soft deposit on each struck coin. Greg's pulse quickened. He submitted the quarter to PCGS. It returned labeled 2006 P Colorado quarter, reverse die cut near 3 o'clock. Graded MS64. The value was modest $45 at auction, but its significance was not. It was physical proof of that long-forgotten misfeed. Still, curiosity flickered among collectors. What other errors from that day? Forums sprang to life with images of Nevada quarters misaligned, Nebraska quarters struck through debris, South Dakota blanks hardened off-center, coinvaluechecker.com. 3. Then, in 2014, a tenacious collector named Marisol came into possession of a North Dakota quarter that sounded different when dropped onto the scale. At 7 grams instead of the expected 5.67, something was clearly wrong. She inspected it under a bench microscope and gasped. The ray's features were broader, more pronounced. Letters on the reverse echoed, signs of a double die strike. She confirmed this was a 2006 P North Dakota double die issue, with thickening in E pluribus unum and the buffalo's horns. This variant was rare. Double dies on modern quarters were scarce, and this one, among the cleanest she'd ever seen. PCGS authenticated the error, grading it MS65. In an online auction, it opened at $500, but quickly skyrocketed to $3,900 before selling. Headlines flashed. "Oh, there it is!" Marisol spent the next year searching state by state. She found Montana off-center strikes. South Dakota struck through grease impressions, and each coin, when certified, sold between $300 and $1,000 depending on grade and error severity. Collectors realized something pivotal. The 2006 series held a hidden thread tying together minor die chips, off-center impressions, double dies. What seemed like 5 unrelated designs were connected by a single mechanical anomaly. Day.by 2018, the market for 2006 state quarter errors had matured. Dealers were alerting customers. "Send me any 2006 quarter, especially from Philadelphia." Weighing and inspecting became routine. The coins were no longer mere curiosities. They were pieces of a day's story at the mint. That same year, Marisol encountered the most unusual discovery yet, a silver-tinted Nevada quarter from Philadelphia. Under magnification, she saw its planar edge was thinner, its strike uneven. The weight was off by 0.2 grams, almost unnoticeable. But the true twist came when PCGS X-ray fluorescence testing revealed it was struck on a blank intended for silver-proof coins from the San Francisco line. A planchet error cross-press jurisdictions. It retained the P mint mark, but carried the compositional signature of an S, proof a mistake so subtle it could have been buried forever. Graded PR62. It sold for $6,500 in 2019. The numismatic community accepted it as a genuine wrong planchet error, a once-in-decades phenomenon for that series. The value curve of these errors followed an arc as captivating as the errors themselves. A Colorado cut worth $45 in 2013 became $150 by 2020 in stellar grade. The North Dakota double die, from $3,900 in 2014, climbed to $5,200 in 2021. Montana off-center quarters that traded for a few $100s in private swaps began reaching $1,800 in public auction as collectors chased the narrative. That silver planchet Nevada? It held steady around $7,200 until 2023, then edged up to $8,500 as grading videos and articles circulated. And now, here's the final twist. In spring 2024, a lot of 300 mixed state quarters surfaced in a Florida estate sale. A dealer spotted a Nebraska quarter whose rim showed tiny scallop distortions. It looked like a broad strike. The collar had failed completely. The coin's edge was plain metal, not reeded. Graders confirmed it was struck without a collar, spawned in that same Philadelphia error event. Slabbed at MS63 labeled 2006 P Nebraska broad strike collar failure. Broad strikes on modern quarters are extremely rare. Most are destroyed before release. This specimen sold in early 2025 for a staggering $18,750, a record for any 2006 error. But the most incredible revelation came when the winning bidder shared press logs from the mint documenting a 9-minute halt on May 12, 2006. Quarter planchet feed alignment off by 2 millimeters, collar jammed, grease caused die chip, wrong planchets fed into P presses. That log tied these coins together as siblings in error. A close-knit family of errant strikes from one accidental day. So where does that leave things now? The 2006 quarter error saga has evolved from humble curiosities to a cohesive chapter in modern numismatics. with every error coin a piece of the story. Collectors search bank rolls, check eBay lots, weigh coins under microscopes, chase certification, all in pursuit of traces of that fateful day in Philadelphia. And the value? The Broadstrike example crowned the story at auction, selling most recently for $18,750. In 2020, as the world stood still amid uncertainty, the U.S. Mint carried on. Inside those steel walls and humming machines, production didn't stop. Quarters were still being pressed in Nevada, Connecticut, Kansas, and others, but this time, the designs featured something more than state pride. The America, the Beautiful series was reaching its final chapters, and one issue in particular featuring the National Park of American Samoa was already capturing attention before its feet ever touched the streets. The image of a Samoan fruit bat cradling her pup had raised eyebrows and curiosity alike. It was soft, even gentle, and odd but powerful message during a year that demanded resilience. Struck in massive volumes at Philadelphia and Denver, the 2020 quarters entered the stream of commerce like every other, unnoticed, uncelebrated. But in that turbulent year, perfection was elusive even in metal. At the Philadelphia Mint, one particular die set began to wear sooner than expected. Whether it was fatigue from continuous operation or unnoticed debris that lodged itself between the dies, one subtle flaw began to creep into the pressings, doubling. Minute at first, barely perceptible, but to the trained eye, unmistakable. A small number of these flawed coins left the mint floor, indistinguishable to anyone not looking carefully. And so they traveled, pocket to register, register to bank, bank to wallet, until one landed in the hand of a schoolteacher in West Virginia, paying for gas on a windy February afternoon. The coin caught the attention of Alex, a part-time collector and full-time history teacher who'd been picking through change since the late 90s. Something about the reverse caught his eye. The bat's wings seemed heavier, shadowed, not in form but in impression. The letters in American Samoa were slightly thicker than usual. It looked like a trick of light. But Alex trusted his instincts. That night, under an LED loupe and high magnification lens, he confirmed the subtle spread of the doubling, not dramatic, but real. The letters bore clear signs of machine doubling. He checked references. There was no recorded error yet on this issue. Could it be a new variety? Within a week, he'd sent it to NGC. Their verdict was swift. 2020p American Samoa quarter double die reverse MS65. It was the first of its kind submitted. At first, the grading sparked mild curiosity in online forums. Cool, but it's just machine doubling, right? One user asked. Another replied, that's not strike doubling. That's die doubling. And it's crisp. What followed was a slow-burning frenzy. The story of the fruit bat quarter error spread across Facebook coin groups and Reddit threads. More collectors began inspecting 2020 quarters more carefully. A second one surfaced in Maine, then another in Texas, and a fourth verified, slabbed, and labeled as a DDR emerged in Oregon. But still, the population was low. Under 10 confirmed pieces in the first 5 months. The market didn't move right away. Early listings on eBay were cautious. Possible error coin? But by late summer 2021, one of Alex's MS65 examples sold for $280. Not massive, but a clear signal. It was a modern error, and a rare one. Certified quantities were still small. And with the coin tied so closely to the symbolism of that year, it was more than a double die, it was a relic of strange times. But the real intrigue started when a new kind of error appeared, one even more pronounced. A collector in Arizona cracked open a federal roll and found a 2020p quarter with no reverse detail at all. Just a blank. No bats. No text. Just the raised rim, smooth metal, and faint ghost lines where the design should be. It wasn't a counterfeit. It wasn't damage. It was a genuine strike-through grease error. So much grease had filled the reverse die that the coin struck without any detail transferring. It was raw. It was real. It was rare. That piece sold for $700 in a private dealer auction. Suddenly, people began checking their 2020 quarters with surgical precision. Every roll was a potential treasure. The rise of 2020-era quarters snowballed over the next 2 years. The doubling on the fruit bat design remained the most chased variant. But new errors started appearing with other issues from that year's series. The Weir Farm quarter, also from 2020, had a documented die clash variant. A faint outline of George Washington's profile showed through the house windows, on the reverse a ghostly remnant from a misaligned clash. The Tallgrass Prairie coin, released late that year, carried a minor but verified obverse misalignment, giving Washington's head a shadowed, doubled outline. What was once dismissed as modern coins with no future value had become a full-fledged micro-era for collectors. Dealers began advertising 2020 quarter error hunts in newsletters. YouTube videos on the fruit bat doubling error drew hundreds of thousands of views. Collectors began keeping binders of each version, hoping to find the next flaw, but the value didn't explode right away. It simmered. In 2022, an MS-66 fruit bat DDR sold for $350. Another with a full clash error brought $460. Strike-throughs remained the rarest and priciest. By 2023, the Greaseville coins were fetching nearly $1,200 in MS-64 or higher. Then came the twist no one saw coming. In early 2024, a coin dealer in San Diego received a 2020p quarter that didn't just show doubling, it displayed tripling. The letters on the reverse had 3 distinct impressions. The die had degraded beyond any known example. NGC confirmed the coin as a triple die reverse, a designation almost unheard of in modern minting. They graded it MS-64. The discovery shook the numismatic community. Triple die coins are beyond rare. Many numismatists go their entire careers without seeing one. PCGS called it a production miracle and added it to their reference catalog. That coin was placed in a heritage auction in March 2025. It drew 94 bidders. The hammer price? $17,800. It became the most expensive 2020 quarter ever sold. A record-setting error that began as a loose thread in the metal fabric of a difficult, yet today, the search continues. Roll hunters are still combing bank boxes and pocket change. Fruit bat DDRs are regularly selling between $250 and $600 depending on condition. Strike-through examples climb into the thousands, particularly when the grease obliterates the entire reverse. But that just one known so far triple die coin is the crown jewel of them all, and its final value, $17,800.